Hey, it's Ryan Seacrest. Life comes at you fast, which is why it's important to find some time to relax. A little you time. Enter Chumba Casino. With no download required, you can jump on anytime, anywhere for the chance to redeem some serious prizes. So treat yourself with Chumba Casino and play over 100 online casino-style games, all for free. Go to ChumbaCasino.com to collect your free welcome bonus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello listeners, and welcome to this week's episode of The Cult Vault. Today is going to be slightly different, and most likely a little shorter than usual. I reached out on Reddit for cult survivors, and I had one person come forward with a strange experience. She talked to me about a Peruvian cult she became entangled in. For the purpose of this story, she has asked to remain anonymous, so for the sake of respecting her wishes, I will refer to her as Amy. Buckle in for this next chapter as I read to you Amy's story about an anonymous Peruvian cult that is still active and very much flourishing today. Peru is a country in western South America, except for the Lake Titicaca Basin in the southeast. Its borders lie in sparsely populated zones. The boundaries with Colombia to the northeast and Brazil to the east traverse lower ranges of tropical forests, whereas the borders with Bolivia to the southeast, Chile to the south, and Ecuador to the northwest run across the high Andes. To the west, territorial waters reaching 200 miles into the Pacific Ocean are claimed by Peru. According to Peru tourism statistics, Peru is one of the best tourist attractions in South America. Each year more tourists come to Peru, which is why tourism has a large percentage of Peru's economy. Tourism is directed towards cultural tourism, gastronomic tourism, adventure tourism, and ecotourism. In these days, ecotourism is considered as one of the tourism sectors which is causing the growth of tourism in Peru. According to a Peruvian government study, the satisfaction rate for tourists after visiting Peru is 94%. Tourism is the most rapidly growing industry in Peru, growing at a rate of annually 25% over the past 5 years. Tourism is growing faster in Peru than any other country in South America. The most popular countries of origin for tourists are the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Brazil, Spain, India, Japan, Chile, and Argentina. I went onto the website for the Foundation of Intentional Community and found some listings for communes in Peru. Granted, there were not many, but I wanted to read you one listing to give you an example of what a Peruvian commune might sound like. Mission statement. Our mission statement is to develop a research centre for appropriate technology to promote self-sufficiency, distributed energy and open source knowledge as a means for social and environmental change. The main aim for this commune is to develop a research centre for appropriate technology. The campus of the research centre is a growing community that acts as a test bed for the developed technologies. We have a very broad definition of technology that includes any tools that improve society and the environment. Our long-term vision of technology enabled societal change and is broadly inspired by the concept of a resource-based economy, also known as RBE. We are based in Junín, Peru, where we are aiming to achieve self-sufficiency, reduce human labour and increase quality of life through the development of advanced, mostly open-source technologies, and increasing the consciousness of the community. The supporting systems, e.g. energy, water, agriculture, health and education, are being holistically designed to increase efficiency and reliability while promoting the consciousness of the interdependency of all systems. Accessibility of knowledge is fundamental to the development of an RBE society, and hence all developments from the commune will be freely available to anyone who is interested. We are not a company, an NGO, a charity or a religious group. Neither are we a hippie commune or meditation/yoga retreat. We are simply a group of individuals who want to explore an alternative system of living and find solutions for some of the problems of the current society, while living in a way that is consistent with our ideals. We strongly support and follow the scientific method and are best suited to like-minded people that want to drive systemic change via science and technology. We currently have 2 adult members, plus our families, and are looking to expand up to 40 people. This group could be a transient community of visiting scientists and researchers, students and volunteers, although we would prefer longer-term collaborations. Status: currently forming. Started planning, 2013. Started living together, 2014. Visitors accepted, yes. Open to new members, yes. About: we are an eco-village, organised around ecology and sustainability. Could also be known as a transition town or eco-neighbourhood, focused on energy and resource resiliency. Programmes and activities: transition town, a post-petroleum and off-grid community. Volunteer, internship and apprenticeships available. Located on rural land. Housing status: we have land we have developed on. Area: 5.5 hectares. Current resident types: rooms in a house or building. We are planning to build a small house apartment style for new members and a large communal centre. Current number of residences: 2. Planned number of residences: 10. Planned residence types: single-family homes, multi-family homes, rooms in a house or building. Housing provided, work exchange, included in membership. Land owned by: the project is registered as a non-profit organisation. The land is currently owned by the founders but will be moved into ownership of the organisation. Membership: adult members 2, child members 1, non-member residents 6, percent women 50%, percent men 50%, percent transgender 0%, visitors accepted yes. Visitor process: please contact us by email. We are not open to touristic visits or tours. We prefer to host people for some weeks or months in a planned collaboration. Open to new members, yes. Membership process: we would like to communicate extensively with potential members before they visit to communicate how the project and community works. This can be done over email and Skype. We then invite people to visit as volunteers for at least 1 month, although there is no obligation to stay if we are not compatible. We are transitioning away from a monetary system and greatly believe that money makes all relationships dirty. So we never ask volunteers or potential members for money. We plan to fund the building of houses and development of all infrastructure within the project to provide the basic needs of the members. After a period of mutual evaluation, if someone decides to join the community, they can be added as legal members in our constitution and we can help support them with visa applications, etc. Government. Decision-making. Our intended decision-making process is based on the expertise or experience of individuals. We do not agree with democracy as it gives all people the same vote, regardless of their knowledge or interest in a topic. We take that view that everybody has a voice and the right to voice an opinion, but the vote on a particular issue will be given to a limited group of experts in a specific field who are considered experts by the community due to their experience or qualifications. There is no identified leader, but there is core leadership groups. Economics. Dues, fees or shared expenses? No. Shared income? None. Required weekly labour contribution? 30 hours. Open to members with existing debt? Yes. Brackets, some debt. Additional comments. Currently, the founding members are personally funding all expenses. Future projects will be funded by scientific collaborations, crowdfunding and small business activities. If members choose to put financial or other resources into the project, they will be considered as donations and not recoverable if the member decides to leave. Sustainability practices. Energy infrastructure. We use both systems. Current renewable energy generation. Almost all energy that we use is currently renewable, around 90% in total. Energy sources. Solar, hydroelectric, clean energy from the grid. Planned renewable energy generation, 100%. Current food produced, 25%. Planned food produced, almost all, around 90%. Lifestyle. Common facilities. There is a common house, gardens, greenhouses, library, workshop, swing sets and play areas, waterfront access and internet. The internet is available, the community provides it. Cell phone service is good for some people. shared meals, approximately all meals, dietary practices, omnivorous, paleo, local, organic, GMO-free, mostly vegetarian, mostly vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free. We are aiming towards paleo-style eating for healthy and self-sufficiency reasons. We eat our own eggs and chickens and sometimes other meat from our neighbours as much as possible. We see the challenge in growing sufficient grains and understand the limited nutrition given by such foods. We eat very little dairy due to personal preference and lack of availability in the jungle. Very strict vegan or raw diets are difficult to cater for here. Dietary choice or restriction. People may eat however they wish. Special diets are okay. Alcohol use, yes, used seldomly or ceremoniously. Tobacco, no, this community does not permit tobacco abuse. Tobacco use. Additional diet comments. We are trying to create an environment that promotes optimum health. We use the scientific method as much as possible to make decisions. Hence we follow the science where we can to make dietary decisions in preference to likes or culture. Hence we strictly limit sugar, alcohol, tobacco, recreational drugs, etc. Common spiritual practice, not a particularly spiritual or religious community. Education style, homeschooling, private schooling at the community, public schooling, up to each family or individual. Healthcare options, up to each family, household or individual. Now that we know a little bit of Peru, its tourism rates, and what a commune in general or specifically in Peru might look like, I feel like we're in a good place to explore Amy's story. She starts by saying, "Hi there, thanks for the invitation to do this. I hope this isn't too long. I really tried to be concise, but there are just so many different details to include. So to begin, I want to say that this cult is very small and unknown, so I will not name them directly. I left about 2 years ago. This is a cult based in Peru. They advertise themselves as a centre for taking plant medicine and learning about indigenous culture and shamanism. Their philosophy, even among cults, is actually quite unique. Their founder was for decades involved in the Hare Krishna movement. Hare Krishna is sort of cult of its own. It is based on Vedic scripture, as interpreted by the original founder, Swami Prabhupada. He came to the USA in the 1960s to spread his religion under an organisation called ISKCON, the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. There is tons of information on the web already about ISKCON, so I won't go too deep into it, but our cult is definitely an offshoot of this. On a side note, one of my earliest episodes was actually around ISKCON, so if you don't know too much about them, you can go back and listen to that episode right now. So the founder came to Peru and decided to start a community in the late 90s. He wanted to diverge from Orthodox Hinduism and blend the Eastern tradition with traditions of shamanism based on his experiences with plant medicines native to Peru, like the San Pedro cactus. I joined in 2016 when I went on a trip to Peru with a college friend. I was 23 at the time. I was simply curious and wanted to backpack through South America and learn about other ways of life. I was disillusioned with the materialistic culture I left behind in the States, which left me ripe for indoctrination. I stayed at this community for 3 weeks under the guise of a plant medicine program, but ended up staying for 6 months, then returning to the US for a while, and then coming back again for a year. My time spent there initially was very nice. I had a community of people around me, got to journey with sacred plant medicine, and learned new skills of permaculture, cooking, and teaching. The community on the surface runs programs for visitors where they teach many useful things. I had really positive experiences and felt deeply connected to shamanism, and still do. I also liked the community's focus on service and building a sort of alternative society, so there were many good things at the start. But when you became a more permanent member, you discover the other side of the group. The longer you stay, the deeper you get into the group philosophy and activities. These activities include lengthy and regular meetings that go late into the night, endlessly analysing the medicine we would receive from our ayahuasca ceremonies to see how we would go forward. These meetings are not just about philosophical discussion, but very often about the dynamics within the group and debating who is in what position of hierarchy and authority. We would talk a lot about the leader and his much younger wife, and how we relate to them as absolute authorities, We were inundated with a lot of the Hare Krishna concepts, including the idea that we were all fallen and need to get back to Vrindavan, or heaven. Other routines would include morning kirtan, which is an hour or more of chanting and singing songs from the Hare Krishna and indigenous traditions. These were always huge scenes of power games between the leader and other group members and a lot of underhanded competition. There would also be the plant ceremonies and sweat lodges, usually once a week. Mealtime was also very ritualistic, as everything had to be offered with the right mantra and cooked with a strict standard to please Krishna, who is the god of this religion.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses, so don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Why I left. For months before I left, I started having a gut feeling that something was off. I had also coupled up with my now husband, and this relationship was very helpful, as it provided a space for us to talk and see things outside of perspective of the group. When we got together, we were shamed by the group for isolating and not getting explicit permission for our relationship. So that one was a red flag. Another red flag was when the leader, who was married, started a relationship with another woman in the group, and when caught, claimed it was part of divine guidance to heal societal patterns of infidelity and jealousy. Even being brainwashed, I could smell the bullshit. I started to also feel like I was losing myself, that I had to hide my real self. I would take walks in the mountains and listen to music or hide in my room and make art. And these were the only times I was happy. I started to hate the group meetings and would leave early, which would in turn lead to me being shamed. Furthermore, financially, I felt it was unfair because I was actually paying to do work there. I worked most days, cooking, cleaning, giving classes, and still had to pay each month to share a room and get one meal a day. Finally, I spontaneously bought a plane ticket and left Peru, which was the first step. Over the following months, my partner and I lived together, and through talking and just living a normal life again, came to the conclusion that we had been in a cult. After this short retelling of Amy's time in Peru, I asked Amy if she would mind going through Stephen Hassan's bite model questions, so we could ascertain the level of control this innocent on the outside commune really had. Leader promotes dependence and obedience. Yes, the leader is seen as your one and only link to God Almighty. They take the Hindu concept of the guru to the extreme, where you are said to be utterly lost without the guru. There's also lots of talks about absolute faith in the leader. Modify behaviour with rewards and punishment. Sort of. You get promoted into more power and responsibility when you toe the line and kiss the arse of the leadership. Those who don't, or start to divert from the group, are asked to leave for a time, take on more grueling daily chores, or give more money. Dictate where and with whom you live. Sure, we all live together on a piece of land and roommates are assigned. Restrict or control sexuality. To a degree, all these things I say yes to were never forced in an overt way, but more subtly through judgment and group pressure to be holy. People could not be in relationships without first talking about it in group meetings or with the leaders. People still would do it anyway, but then they were looked down upon. Control clothing and hairstyle, not overtly but again subtly. Yes, more Western-style clothes, makeup or anything seen as sexual or revealing were looked down upon. I was once made fun of for not wearing an ankle-length skirt during ceremony. Regulate what you eat and drink and how much. Yes, in the sense that everyone has to be vegetarian and you are only given one meal a day, which is lunch, plus a soup at night time. You can get your own food, but we live far from town, and since most people are broke, it's hard. Deprive you of 7 to 9 hours sleep. Yes, through the aforementioned meetings, also on nights of ceremony, you miss one entire night of sleep because the ceremony starts at midnight and goes on until the next morning. Exploit you financially. Yes, Everyone works very hard there, but no one gets paid except the leadership, which is a group of 4 people, and they only get around $60 a month. We get meals and a shared room to sleep in, but we are expected to work as much as we are asked to. The men oftentimes have to do hard physical labour. When you are first there, you have to pay around $500 a month, which is a lot of money in Peru. By the end of my stay, I was paying around $200 a month. You are made to feel like you are just so lucky to be amongst the chosen people, so paying to be there whilst also working is no big deal. Restrict leisure time and activity. Leisure time is looked down upon and restricted. Any activity not for the benefit of the group is discouraged. Require you to seek permission for decisions. Pretty much, especially when it comes to relationships and leisure time. Of course you can still do whatever you want anyway. They weren't forcefully restricting you, but you will be shamed. For example, one time I took a vacation for a few days to relax after being sick. When I got back, I was shamed for missing out on my work, even though I wasn't getting paid for it. Deliberately withhold or distort information. Yes. The higher you go up in the group, the more secrets you get to learn. Shocking things, like about the leader's promiscuity. These things are kept from newer members. Forbid you from speaking with co-members or critics. Not explicitly forbid, but past members who left are gossiped about so that you see them as being wayward. Other types of groups in the area are also criticised a lot for being inferior to us. Discouraged access to non-cult sources of information. Yes, you are discouraged from listening to music, reading books that are not directly related to our philosophy. Generate and use propaganda extensively. They advertise a lot of their programs and present a false image to new people, but not as much as other cults. They are very isolated from society. Use information gained in confession sessions. I do remember this, not so much to me, but definitely to others. Require you to report thoughts, feelings, and activities. Yes, that is the purpose of the meetings. No feeling or thought can be kept to yourself. Everything is for the group, they say. Then they can use that against you later. Encourage you to spy and report on others' misconduct. One example is the leader for a time required us to make daily schedules and report all of our activity. He then asked one member to watch people to make sure they were doing exactly what their activity logs said. Instill black versus white, us versus them, and good versus evil thinking. For sure, anyone outside of the group, or anyone who chooses to leave, is lost or fallen. Change your identity, possibly your name. Yes, everyone who is there long term changes their name through an initiation. They take on a Sanskrit name, and you are no longer allowed to use the old karmic name. Thankfully, I never did this. Use loaded language and cliches to stop complex thought. Yes, yes, yes. There are so many terms they invented that only make sense within this group. Induce hypnotic or trance-like states. Yes, through many of the activities such as chanting and using these powerful plant psychedelics, I believe we were made much more susceptible to manipulation. Teach thought-stopping techniques to prevent critical thoughts. I think so. In the sense of group meetings, if you brought up a concern or criticism of the group, no one would address what you actually said, but turn it into a theoretical debate divorced from reality, or turn it back onto you to show your faults. Only allow positive thoughts. Yes, as stated before, chanting was used all the time in ceremony, under the influence of psychedelics. Use excessive meditation, singing, prayer. Yes, we would be chanting for 8 hours at a time. Instill irrational fears of leaving the group. Oh my, yes. Older members would have horror stories about when they would leave for a period and how awful and sick the rest of the world is. Label some emotions as evil or sinful. Not in those terms, but yes. Real emotions are discouraged because you are all supposed to have the same false personality of perfect devotee. Teach emotion-stopping techniques to prevent homesickness. Not sure what an emotion-stopping technique would be, but yes, they did dissuade homesickness. One leader even volunteered to call my mother, who was understandably worried, to assure her how great the group was and how much fun I was having. Shower you with praise. Yes, especially at the beginning. They made you feel like you were chosen by God to be part of this revolutionary group to save humanity. That changes later, though, when you have to constantly prove you are worthy enough for them. Threaten your friends and family. No, thankfully it didn't go that far. Shun you if you disobey orders. Yes, in a more subtle way, through talking behind your back. Teach that there is no happiness without the group. Yes, I remember when first being there, how older group members would talk of how lost and messed up they were before the group, and how they found such truth being there. Those stories really influence you, and make you think you need the group to be a useful person. After reading through Amy's testimony, and looking back at the answers she has provided around the BITE model, there are definitely some forms of behaviour, information, thought and emotion control that are being used within this commune. Just in America, when you search active communes, the markers across the American map fill up so much of it that there are barely any areas without a marker or even overlapping markers. I wonder how many of these are using some of the same methods of control. I have also been wondering how this lockdown may have been affecting communes during the COVID-19 outbreak. I know some Jehovah's Witnesses have resorted to putting notes through people's doors asking for donations. Although I do not think it is fair to tar all communes, religions and cults with the same brush, I did a little more searching on the COVID impact on communes. One article I found on the Foundation for Intentional Community read, "With people's lives suspended across the globe, we can't help but wonder, how would we have responded to coronavirus crisis if we all lived in intentional communities, eco-villages, co-housing and the like, instead of our conventional neighbourhoods? And how have existing intentional communities fared through the pandemic? Are they better or worse off than the mainstream? What can we learn from how they have dealt with this crisis? Maybe intentional communities are more financially or materially self-sufficient and therefore more resilient during a pandemic. Perhaps their highly communal living arrangements make them more susceptible to the disease. Could they be suffering less from loneliness and isolation during lockdown? Are they more stable and even generous during this time? To find out the answers, the Foundation for Intentional Community, or FIC, has partnered with the Intentional Communities Desk in May 2020 and sent out a survey to intentional communities in our communities directory so we could learn how they have responded to the pandemic. Of the 75 intentional communities that have responded to the survey, 68 are based in the United States, with others spread out from the UK to Peru and all the way to Australia and New Zealand. The stories these communities share are fascinating, with some rural communities basically unaffected or even experiencing positive changes since coronavirus, and other urban communities especially challenged to step up together and support each other through crisis. Communities have had to come up with creative ways to keep each other safe and stay connected even while typical community activities, such as shared meals, are on pause. They have had to navigate internal tensions about how seriously to take the virus and what levels of response are appropriate. Intentional communities offer possibilities for how we can all survive and thrive through crisis by coming together. So it seems that some communes are flourishing, and some are facing challenges. I wonder if that's the same for the cults we usually talk about on these episodes. I wonder how they're faring. Maybe through future interviews we will find out. But this is where I'm going to leave today's episode. I have some really exciting material lined up for you all. I cannot wait to share it. As usual, I just want to quickly plug that I have a GoFundMe page still live, and my Patreon. You can find me at patreon.com/thecultvault. This month I will be releasing exclusive content on the Branch Davidians. Any support I receive will help me stay home a little longer after my maternity leave has finished so I can continue podcasting and telling these stories to you all. If you'd like to get in touch, you can do so by emailing me at cultvaultpodcast@gmail.com or find me on Twitter and Instagram at cultvaultpod. I'm your speaker Casey, and this has been the Cult Vault.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.